Out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced under the bludgeonings of chance. My head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms the horror of the shade. And yet the menace of the years shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Back again, this is Seth Esposa, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, Called Science. And today on this segment, I have David Whitehead from Truth Warrior Podcast. Me and David met back in 2017 at Free Your Mind 5. That's correspondence, and have been corresponding at a distance. I've been on Unslaved, and I finally got David on, and the things we're going to get into today, I think are going to be very powerful. To introduce you, you're a full-time podcaster, martial artist, coach, entrepreneur, a public speaker with a lifetime of study and interest in esoteric information, philosophy, comparative religion, and mythology, and all of these amazing areas there's so few really fucking dive into, and all of the ancient and modern mysteries, the paranormal, and the current geopolitical events that are taking place are what you cover with your podcast with Truth Warrior. And you're also a co-host with Michael Tsarion on Unslaved podcast, and through your independent research, seeking answers to the many challenging questions of our time, founded on a sincere pursuit of truth, holding an emphasis on conquering fear and self-imposed limitations which get in the way of physical, mental, and spiritual development. And to quote Carlos Castaneda on your website, the basic difference between an ordinary man and a warrior is that a warrior takes everything as a challenge, while the ordinary man takes everything, say, to blessing, of course, being cursed. David, it's good to have you on, man.
So I guess very grateful to be here. I'm happy to have this conversation with you. We have indeed known each other for a few years now during this incredible time that we live. What you were saying there about all this work I've done, that I owe a massive debt of gratitude to the many teachers that I had, teachers that taught me what to do and the others taught me what not to do. I've learned from so many. So the work that I'm doing, I really feel like I'm just here to pay it forward. Yeah. And that's what it is. I want to know what the truth is. I'm not saying I have it. That's not why I call my show Truth Warrior. I call it that as something that I aspire towards, and that's the goal. The goal is the truth, and that's what we're trying to find out. So I wonder what truths we can uncover today, brother.
It's a paradox, right? Truth, the term, as it states in the Kabbalion, all truths but have truths, and all paradoxes must be reconciled. And the whole my truth movement versus the actual fucking truth. When the truth does reveal itself, take an individual through that process of cognitive dissonance. That's what's happening in the world right now. Even though it's in their faces, you cannot deny what the hell is happening in our world. And as I've stated, like a lot of people, they're at that first veil in terms of their perception and process. I could just go back to thinking of what it was like for me. How was it for you that you came into all of this? What was your actual experience and process in context to actual awakening?
My earlier years kicked my ass, and it was through some traumatizing experiences growing up that I was motivated to find out the answers as to, first of all, where the hell am I? What is this place? What's really going on here? What's the purpose of life? Who am I? It was questions that I had as a kid, raised in a very traditional home. But for some reason, I knew that the way I was being taught Christianity wasn't the full story. I knew there was something missing. I got that message from being raised in a religious background, but I had to go on a quest to figure it out for myself. Right. It all just led to other questions. And I've often been saying that I don't think the path of knowledge, truth, or enlightenment is necessarily always about finding the answers. The main thing that drives you is the questions. And I've learned to become patient with questions that I haven't been able to answer and use them as teachers so that way they continue to push me to try to learn more. And that's what you need. A good, solid question is going to challenge you and bring out something in you that's going to help you find truths that you weren't even looking for. I started with comparative religion and mythology. I was always into history, was into the medieval period, the nanosecond of my cognition. I was interested at a past life there or something. Always into the medieval period, in the martial arts, just always attracted to that. That's how I started. That was sort of my foundation. And then from there, I'd just be that kid in the library or in the bookstore, always looking for books, not in the necessarily the fiction section, although I love fiction. I was always in the scholastic. I want the history, the philosophy, the why. I want to know why. And so I picked all those books up, and then it turned into, you find people like Michael Tsarion or Jordan Maxwell. Or
how did you actually hook up with Michael Tsarion and start the Unslaved podcast? Highly interesting.
Thanks for asking. That's a good story. Well, I found Michael's work at a very interesting time in my development. So I knew about 9/11, and you realize the media is lying to you. The politicians are shaking hands with the underground criminals and the overworld criminals that basically are their sponsors. And you start to figure that stuff out pretty quick. But I always loved the philosophical, spiritual stuff. And I started actually hitting a point in my thinking where, I was listening to a lot of guys like Christopher Hitchens. And I mean, man, these guys are brilliant. They've got some excellent stuff, but there was always something missing. I went into a atheistic perspective for a while. Immediately, I was like depressed.
Fuck this world, man. Right.
I'm like, yeah, fuck. If there's no meaning, drive
you to that point. And being raised in religion, I think a lot of people have experienced this, but I definitely did. Even see to the corridors of the dark Luciferians and seeing all this shit in terms of what's really happening in the background. It shakes your goddamn fucking existence when the veils are pulled the fuck back. A lot of people's process to whatever an experience is going on, the programming is running flawlessly. I heard it said a lot of people are going back into the religion of Christianity,
because people are in a crisis and they're looking for answers. And what's the first place people run to? They run to the medics, and they run to the church, and they run to trust the science. Everybody's picking their crutch. I'm at my particular development, but I'm also open. Right now, the world is being forced to start answering some of these questions. To get back to what I was saying about Michael, meeting him, I came across his work right after Jordan Maxwell. The first Zeitgeist showcased Jordan Maxwell, I think, right in the beginning. And something about his voice and something about what he was saying was right up my alley, because I'd been doing comparative religious studies since I was 9. And he brought a new depth to it where he started introducing sources. And Michael was one of those sources. I think he was talking about like Hollow Earth or something back there, or his Atlantis.
That's some real shit right there.
Oh, dude, that's a whole podcast. I actually want to do something on that. He got me curious. I was always into the paranormal, ufology, those kind of things.
Have you ever had my actual experience in context to any of that kind of stuff?
I have. There's a few that I don't share anything about. It's very personal. A couple sightings, and definitely spoken to some really freaky people that very interesting things have happened. But Michael's influence was instant when I picked up Origins and Oracles, the 47-hour series where he's literally just standing there breaking down fact after fact. This was the unique thing about Michael's work, was he wasn't just sitting there, give you guys a whole bunch more Kool-Aid to drink. It was the opposite. Don't even believe me. Think for yourself. Here's some sources you've never heard before because they've been suppressed. Make up your own mind. I've never heard that. I'd never heard that approach before. He was very passionate and Irish and all that I love. He was always giving you the freedom to think for yourself. And that was unique. So I was like, oh, I don't know if all this stuff is true, but I'm just curious. And then he started dropping all the sources. I was the guy, the good student, picked up all the books. You get into what you can, and you watch the interviews with Leonard Shlain and all these guys. He was mentioning all this stuff, and from so many different subjects, an encyclopedia of source material. And I thought, wow, for somebody like me, for a mind like mine, which never ceases, it was awesome. And I learned so much. It's about learning different angles, turning things around, questioning things, and thinking for yourself. And that's what I loved about it. So I got into his work, started emailing him about his book when I ordered his Atlantis book. Yeah. It was actually him that emailed me back when I was asking about payments. Like, whoa, it's the guy. I thought he'd So I ended up just sending him a couple sentences. Wanted to know if you'd ever heard of Morihei Yeshiva or something like that. Then he emailed me back and we just started chatting. And then my buddy, Chris Rusak from Toronto, he started getting in contact with Michael as well. And they decided to do this thing called the MSAR Conspiratorium back in 2012, 13. It was almost like the podcast before the podcasts were popular. It was like live stream Michael and questions from the audience, totally unique. So we did that. Then I got on American Freedom Radio and I asked Michael to come on, and he said, yeah. He came on, we hit it off. He knew I had read his work. So he kept going, hey, I want to do an interview. Let's do it. So I got Skype, put it out. I did that for years, man, putting out information. I said, let's do this full time. Let's create something that is going to be better quality. We can have memberships, and we created Unslaved. Thank God for all those people there, because that's what allows me to do Unslaved. Michael gets to do his work and do even more of it than he otherwise would have been able to do. And I think at a quality that's just freaking next level. It also allows me to do Truth Warrior and Cult of the Medics and take care of my family, because I lost my main business during this whole pandemic.
Shut down your martial arts studio, man.
Yeah, they shut it down. Yeah. That's really the story of how it all came
has
together.
That changed at all in BC, the mandate shit, or is it still fucking China up there?
We don't have any mandates within right now. They still say, we do ask that you still wear a mask. Our premier is resigning.
Cult of the Medics Part 1. One of the key signs of a slave are the ones wearing the fucking masks. It was a giant ritual.
Legitimate. Yeah, if people haven't heard that, what you're saying, Seth, I guess that's not hyperbole. That's legit. They muzzled the slaves. This is part of dehumanization, which is an integral part of this process, to how to break down the will of the population, to cancel identity for an extended period of time, on and off, turn the hot water on, then turn the cold water on, give you a little bit of freedom for 20 minutes to run around in the yard of the prison, and then back in the prison. As you see it, it was on and off, and there's probably more to come, even though the narrative is falling apart. The symbol in chapter 1 you're talking about, the symbol of the mask, not only do I bring Denny Rancourt and many others to debunk what they call the science around masking and destroy that. There is no science that it does anything but actually harm you and everybody around you, especially your children.
I would say in the case of ritual and not understanding the fucking history, gotten everyone to consent deeper into the construct of slavery, plague of fear, the fucking Black Death codes reactivated in people, all the splitting, and what I mentioned about Divok and what it actually means, man. The depth and level that I know that you've come to and that I've come to, people that know the difference. It's a fucking shock to me how the fuck people can't see this shit.
This is fascinating, and people need to think about that. Yeah. Especially the people who are already awake to what's really going on.
They think they're awake,
answers
but
are out there.
They're not woke.
Yeah, the people that are still buying into the narrative, there's a process that is well known now by these intelligence agencies, the media, these governing classes. They've got your psychology on speed dial. They know exactly how you tick, especially when they can get you out of your individual psychological defenses, right? Like if they can pull you out of your individuation and put you into a crowd consciousness, then they don't have to reach into the mind of every single person. They've just got you to upload yourself into a hive, and then they just got to program the hive.
How do you actually see that hive mind operate? What's the actual method of operation in terms of that hive mind? Because it never worked on me. Obviously, it didn't work on you. How the fuck is it working on certain individuals and then others it's not? What is the machinations of that method?
Start from the bottom up, because they know deep down we're all petrified of reality, because nature in our ancient past was extremely vicious. There's a fear of nature that has happened, right? We fled, we created civilization. There's pros and cons to it, of course. But in that fleeing, there was a process of escaping what we probably needed to address as a species, which was all this trauma. And then think of the wars, think of the depressions, think of your own personal trauma and your own personal life, stack it all up on top of each other. And they know that you are seeking someone to tell you how to live your life. That's why they created these religious institutions and turned them into systems of collectivism and mental slavery. Truth is something given to you only by the authority, never to be questioned, versus a process of discovery. That was the seeding of where we're at now. Then you add in all the projects, Stanford Prison Experiment, the MK Ultras, the Project Signs, Project Looking Glass, all these different projects that were funded to study the psyche and to develop techniques where they wanted to be able to make somebody operate against their will, even if their survival was threatened, and they would still do as they're commanded. That was the goal, to create Manchurian candidates. They figured out how to do it on the individual level. And what do you think they learned from the behaviorists? What do you think they learned from the Edward Bernays and even the Gustave Le Bons, who did a psychological analysis of the crowd mind, which goes back to our tribal instincts. We had to be tribal in order to survive the elements and the wars. And in that, you create a sort of tribal family community consciousness. So that's not a negative thing in and of itself.
Right, but they're playing on those tribal codes to get everyone to consent to the hive mind in order to be accepted. And if you reject that shit, then you're not a part of the fucking group.
You're ousted from the tribe. Exactly. And it took the development of Western civilization to even have the ability to become an individual. You could be only an individual on your own in some of these ancient times. You needed to come together for survival. So there was a function, but that could also be toxic as well. It was definitely toxic to philosophy because it took these individual rogues to be able to even become philosophers and create individuated thought. And then it evolved over time. But long story, to cut it short to your question, these mind manipulators, these black magicians, these hypnotists know how to cast a spell. And we talked about spells in the episode on Unslaved, so we don't have to rehash it, but they know how to put auto-suggestive symbols, words, phrases, thoughts, ideas into the subconscious mind, which most humans are not even aware exists or don't want to know that there's a whole sub level to their consciousness. They're at a disadvantage. And that these guys know the psychology, and so they know how to manipulate it. And they know stimulating people with survival, fear, but also your virtues and your vices. So they play your virtues and your vices against you. Your virtue is their greatest weapon when you aren't aware of what's going on. Example. Why are people wearing masks, Sethicus?
Pseudo virtue.
Exactly. They believe, they were told, and they were programmed to think
it's a good thing,
that it's something that helps the greater family of humanity and it saves lives. So they are thinking in a virtuous mode, even though I think virtue also means you have to be logical and inquisitive. I've been saying a lot that meaning well just isn't
good. That don't mean
enough.
nothing, right? Exactly.
It doesn't mean anything. Truth is all that matters. The facts of reality. We were even starting this with what is truth? Truth is undeniable. Truth is invincible. Truth is. And you either align with it or you don't. And there's consequences, right? The consequences to it. We would learn truth from nature, survive in the wild in blizzard conditions. I can't live in these sub-zero temperatures without skins and clothing and shelter, right? Which taught us about truth and about ourselves and reality, right? Whereas now, look at us, these apartments and these condos.
Yeah.
And
did you ever see the documentary called Mouse Utopia Universe 25?
I have not seen that one. No.
You got to watch that shit, man, because
I'll check it out.
It lays out the experiments done on mice and hold it in these megaplexes. It's exactly what the fuck has happened to humanity. That's why I don't live in a major city. I got the fuck out.
I was living in Toronto, man. Toronto would be like Canada's New York. Okay.
Yeah.
And dude, I had my time there, but I am so glad that I got my ass out to the sticks on a remote island when this stuff hit the fan. And I'm so glad I did that. There was something that called me for that. And I did it. And here I am. And I'm healthy and I'm happy. So,
and you're putting the fucking truth out. And more people need to be doing this. This is something that is being addressed and network all across the board. We need to push this even harder now than it's ever fucking been. Because they come out of the iron world, like I was saying, this game the fuck on. I see the timeline trajectory in terms of what's been revealed. The AI timeline, fast track, getting people to willingly consent to their fucking slavery. You know, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, man. They love it because they don't have to fucking think. They don't have to do anything that's truly virtuous and know the difference in terms of what it means to go through that process of self-actualized ignition of core intelligence. Common sense went out the door. What the fuck?
There's the twofold action here of why it's frustrating to see. The willingness of the slave, okay, to be a slave. There's that dynamic, okay? And that willingness comes from a fear of life and a fear of your own potential. And you maybe feel like you're not good enough. You don't know what you're going to do. So you need to be led, okay? You didn't strengthen yourself. You're not willing to work. You're lazy. There's a lot of reasons why people go into that camp of being the slave. But that doesn't mean that that is the natural state because the second factor, this is generational mind control. This is generational programming. Now back to your regular scheduled programming. This is way bigger than some damn pandemic. That's just part of the act.
This genetic modification.
Yeah, the alchemical alteration of man, humans. Chapter 5 of my series. They started with the psyche. There's a whole physiological assault with genetics and altering that through food, air, water, injections, all kinds of medications, drugs and I'm talking legal and illegal drugs. Think of all the stuff sprayed on your crops. Think about what the hell these animals are getting injected with. The big picture. There's also the psychological warfare. We're living in a psychological war. People are falling victim to it because they're not strong enough to withstand it. Aside from my personal belief that everybody should pull up their bootstraps and grow a spine and become a warrior and think for yourself, not everybody can do that shit. Okay. So I have some compassion where I think a lot of other guys maybe just go, fuck them. I'm not there yet. I'm still young. So who knows? I look at them and I say, you don't even know. You're ignorant of your ignorance. That's how bad it is, man. And
I love denial, man.
And fear, but remember they use fear, and this is where I get angry at who's doing this, the evil of it, the insidiousness of what's going on. This was consciously, premeditatedly planned and carried out, even when exposed, continuing and actually raising the bar to continue the same process of attacking people on all levels. I don't blame the average person for not being able to withstand the barrage of a very sophisticated, multi-trillion-dollar, age-old system of mind control, perfected over time, and they now have all the tools in the book.
This is hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah,
of premeditated on top of that fucking methods that if you do not know the psyche and how the psyche operates and your own psychology and what is really going on in this world, you are completely fucked, everybody. And that's just the first veil. You see the effects. Obviously, we know the cause, the machinations of the cause, why this is happening in terms of grid works of harvesting the human race and genetic modification and these false paths that have been laid out throughout the centuries. None of it out there, even in the last 20 years, from my observation, has done anything except lead people into what the fuck is actually manifesting. And you got all the fucking gender splitting, insanity, and it's one spoke into the wheel after another, after another, after another, and they just keep you on this goddamn wheel, right? Mm-hmm. And jumping off that fucker, thinking about my own process, set on course the development and manifestation of the mystery school so that people can come and actually learn the truth in terms of what has been kept from them in context to the occult.
Just to point out that people don't do what you do. It says a lot about you. You had these experiences, you gained this knowledge, and then your instinct was to share it, was to do work publicly.
Literally has cost.
It's a cost. Lives. Oh, yeah. You're attacked all the time. Under attack all the time, even from the people supposedly allied to you. This is why that Aikido master told me when I went up as a teenager to go, hey, what's the meaning of life? Why are we training martial arts? What does it all mean? It means we have to find the truth. And in order to find the truth, you need to grow the spine of a warrior. And I went, I'm in. Sign me up to that cult. That's where the whole concept comes from. And that's what you need, because in order to step out and we're taking on government, we're taking on the establishment, we're taking on the common man that's blind to all of this, actual attacks and threats and weird shit happening. I don't think people know the sacrifice that it takes.
I've seen that too in terms of what can happen. It's that point of compromise. Has a point. If you cannot breach that rift within yourself, you will end up compromising your fucking soul. And I think that's what everything's designed to do. It's a real test, because even as I've been on this path and people have come alongside and they walk with you for a time, but they're not seeing it all the way through. And they don't know even how deep it actually goes, David. It goes so much further. What I witnessed, everything got pulled back on timelines. The consciousness of individuals, everything got fucking wiped. And they got pulled into this fucking shit. And people do not understand the fact that dark sorcery is a factor in this world. You are absolutely veiled beyond belief. We hear about it in the legends. We hear about it in all of the allegories and things that were into it. This is the nature of reality. And then you're back to your bullshit fucking existence. That's how they're playing on your codes. And the world is magic, connection, the nature of the universe and everything we need to be in alignment with. This is what Universe 25, in context to Mouse Utopia, ripped everybody away from. In context to mechanics, lifespan being shortened, they have targeted us because of our true potential.
They want us to be the resource. People have to ask themselves, are you wanting to live on your knees like this? You want to keep having your life prescribed to you by people you've never met, and realizing that this life is a duality. There's just as much good in this world as there is evil, even though it's extremely difficult to see that. There really is. It doesn't always exist in humans, by the way. I'm talking about in general, the life and the consciousness on this planet. There is a battle between good and evil. It's happening within us and it's happening external to us. We're seeing the world of effects. That's what it is.
Right. What most people see is the effect, but they do not know the cause. Yeah. They don't understand cosmic law, the ebb and flow and the pendulum and rhythm and vibration and mentalism, the very first cosmic law. But that's not mastered in terms of correspondence, knowing how the nature of the universe and our cosmology to the microcosm is connected. You're completely fucked here. And you reach certain gates of initiation that you've been going through, that I've been going through, everyone that is actually on this quest. You come to a point of realizing that sometimes you're going to have to take this path alone, tempted to compromise. But that thorn, in terms of truth, is not ever going to allow that. How do we move through these times knowing the difference? Fuck it. But it's getting the results. I think a lot of people are falling into this idea of a new earth and it's all just going to happen, when that's not the true path. You really got to get in there and study.
Great change can come from one individual all the way up to an empowered group of people that come as individuals to make change happen and to make their voices heard, like what we saw in Canada with this trucker convoy, which was literally the most organic thing. These are farmers, cowboys, truckers. There was estimated to be around 11 million. I've never ever seen anything like this in Canada. I asked all the old timers, none of them had seen anything like this. If that can happen in a place like Canada, which is typically a pretty apathetic, not paying attention to politics place, god damn, think back to like 2012 versus now, the amount of people actually taking action, putting together legal cases. Right now, our premier in British Columbia, who was one of the guys telling everybody to follow the mandates and all that shit, he resigned. And our health official, Bonnie Henry, is currently being sued by multiple groups. So people are actually taking real action. 3% of American men rose up and fought the British Empire.
It's always going to be that. And as long as that spark is in the earth, they cannot completely and totally take the fuck over like they're attempting to.
You have to feel, everybody listening, you have to feel in your soul the spirit that says, even if I'm the last man standing against this tyranny, I will stand. Right. God damn it, I will stand. And there's not a force in this earth that will get me to stop living my life as human and living free. There's nothing that's going to stop you if you're committed to that mindset. That's why I've been telling people.
And one thing you said about the question, the answer is always within the question. It's just the question of whether you are willing to accept your responsibility in terms of what the fuck you're asking. One of the main things that I know for a fact is happening in terms of all of these goddamn convoluted agendas is the eradication of the alpha, sigma, gamma male that is not going to stand for this men like me and like you, everybody else in the network that gets it. A lot of young boys coming the fuck up. I got my fucking ass kicked, thrown into the gauntlet of healthy competition by my father and the lessons of my father. And I've literally watched over the years, David, this world has become so goddamn fucking pussified, man, because you're going to offend or hurt someone's feelings or it's hate speech. How dare you hold me accountable to my bullshit fucking attitude? And you're a martial arts instructor. How is that conducive to creating warriors in the world? It's not. It's conducive to creating slaves, people that are just going to eventually compromise, take it up the fucking ass and call it freedom.
That's their choice to go into the depths of their own destruction. That's their choice, the choice that they make. But I'm going to make my choice. Whatever everybody else is doing, I could give a shit. I know where I stand and I've made my choice. And my choice is to live free and to teach my children how to live free, to teach my children how to not violate others' freedom. No master above, no slave below. I have the freedom to work towards that. I will not be submissive to this agenda. That's the commitment I've made to myself. And that's where everybody needs to start. Focus on what you can do, because there's what you have control over and there's what you don't. You got enough on your hands with your own awakening experience, your own empowerment, your own ability to develop the strength to be able to say no to tyranny. And the more people that do it, the more these guys get put out of business. We just also went through the largest transfer of wealth in human history because they shut down the middle class. They shut down all the small businesses. They redirected all that spending over to their big box stores, BlackRock and Vanguards, the big investment firms. What is it? $22 trillion in assets. Stop giving your money to them.
And with that, I'm going to pull this segment into a break here with David Whitehead from the Truth Warrior platform and also the Unslaved podcast. I encourage everyone that is viewing this right now to take to heart everything that is being expressed as we continue to track the trajectory of what the constitution of common sense and the trajectory of the original timeline unfolds. This is Septic Exposer, Black Earth Productions, New Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science. We'll be right back after the break. Back here now from the break. This is Septic Exposer, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science here with David Whitehead via Truth Warrior. Now to continue.
We can't be the ones defensive all the time, reacting all the time, defending ourselves all the time. I'll tell you this as a fighter, if you're always on the defensive, you're going to lose. At some point, you have to redirect that energy and you got to hit back. And that moment in a fight takes willpower. Every part of your body wants you to shut down. Your body's telling you, shut down. And you have to will yourself to act, the will to act. And the first action has to take place in your mind. And you have to train yourself to operate like that. So for me, yeah, the martial arts is very applicable because of the mindset that it builds. It's the will to act. And right now, these motherfuckers, they know how to act on you. And so it's time we act. Don't act when you're told how you're told. Act in accordance with truth and don't bend so easily
everybody's so reactive, emotionally speaking. It's emotional mind control and
Yeah,
getting
it
everybody
is.
on emotional triggers. Next week, it's going to be something else, one thing to another, one thing to another, something to project upon. And interestingly enough, metaphysically speaking, emotion is where we get our magic. We can't even wield an alignment unless we have mastered our cognitive faculties and context. And it's constantly being played on. It's constantly putting people in a position to fucking react. All of those underpinning psychological trigger points. It's a dark science what they're doing with the media.
That's black magic.
Yes, it is dark sorcery. People do not know what dark sorcery actually is. And there's many different facets and contexts.
It's hypnotism, the use of color, light, sound, and symbols, and the use of words.
So how do we even the playing field? Obviously, take true initiation into the occult, put you into places to study, to know the difference. I never would have fucking imagined that things would have manifested the way that they have in my life once I started the creation of the school and speaking to thousands across the world that want to learn, that actually want to know the truth on a level, being able to give them the proper foundation. Without the proper foundation, a lot of the stuff that has been exposed over the years in terms of what's known and not known cannot be navigated correctly. Everyone caught in this loop, they're the motherfuckers controlling the goddamn narrative. We should be communicating viable solutions that are going to put individuals into a position to transcend this shit, know the difference. We talked about it a few times, okay? We know what the fuck is up, but it's just on and on. Things now that myself and even you were exposing 5 years ago, a decade ago, and it's still a topic of conversation. And I know what the reason is. Can't breach this rift because people are choosing, obviously, to not give a fuck. And as a man in the world, that pisses me off. At the same time, okay, you're going to deal with the consequence of your choice, motherfucker. You warn them to not put their hand on the fucking stove. They do it, and then they blame you for it. That's the level of fucking insanity.
They're sick, man. They're just projecting their toxicity onto you. The blame game, that comes from low level of consciousness. The more I've been honest with myself, instead of performing for everybody, I'm just me. And I get the right people around me. Being authentic is really, really important. Protect yourself. You don't have to bare your soul to every Joe Schmo out there. At the same time, be honest. And I think that it starts with everyday actions. And when it comes to solutions, we've got brilliant people that have come before that don't include the cult of the medics. There's solution to your spirituality that don't include the religious oligarchies of the world. Every problem can be solved. The principle that I learned, the art of jiu-jitsu, both the Japanese and the Brazilian style. You're put into uncomfortable positions with somebody that has an advantage over you, and you have to find a way. And it often feels impossible until, with a few technical adjustments and a strong mind and a good body, the option can come through. So I've learned to become a solution-oriented thinker. Every time I present any kind of information that seems dark, scary, and evil, because I'm going to show you a lot of that stuff, it's knowledge of the evil that actually enlightens you to what the good really is. I had a friend of mine. He started his path of awakening, and I kind of got an idea of where he was at when he was trying to tell me that evil didn't exist, and that good and evil were just abstract concepts that were made up by human beings. I then just looked at him and I said, you remember last week you and I were talking about what would we do if somebody invaded our home or harmed our children in any way? All of a sudden, his whole demeanor changed. Like, yeah. And I'm like, you tell me, if some adult broke into your home and harmed your child, the act of evil is to transgress the freedom of another, to break that natural law. And to say that that doesn't exist also negates the good.
Absolutely.
So when you negate the evil because it's too traumatic to think about, there's no conspiracies, there's no evil, come on. Now, all of us are being shown the opposite of freedom in such an exaggerated way, the opposite of sanity and real science and real logic. We're seeing the opposite of truth, the opposite of wealth, the opposite of health. We're being shown evil to enhance our perspective of what the good is and what freedom is and truth is. Don't shy away from it. Don't become it. And that's the line. That's the warrior's path. The answers will come as long as you start asking the right questions. And that's why I did in my series, Cult of the Medics. You're going to find that I'm asking question after question after question. Every chapter is going to be loaded with more questions than there will be answers. And that's done on purpose. Questions activate your mind and your logic. And now you can go, that is a good question. Then you're going to find your own answer that might even be different than mine.
That's another factor, man. There's so many fucking voices out there, I think. And thousands. I think that in context, man, has silenced the voice of truth itself, well, you're not going to fucking hear it necessarily out there. That's for confirmation. And the way that I approach everything that I do research on, anytime I put anything out or I'm listening to other people, I'm always going within and doing the right process, making connections to the higher force, the gates of true intelligence. And this is not taught. This is not talked about to what we actually need to be focused on, so that we can bob and weave and move and duck and dodge and kick some fucking ass in the face of all this ignorance and willful self fucking loathing and divide and conquer tactics, and I'm right and you're wrong, and people can't see eye to eye or see the correlations. They can't reconcile the paradoxes. Where I'm listening to so many different things going through this process, seeing the correlations other people aren't even making when they're arguing or bantering. It's all of this convoluted, triangulated, mathematical reversal fucking codex to a fucking spell that people do not fucking understand. They think that they know, but I'm telling you, David, it goes so much deeper beyond what people can wrap their tiny little fucking brains around. To the point in terms of what's been revealed to me, I can't convey certain things. It's not a concealment, keeping knowledge from people. You're not ready, fucker, because your cognitive faculties are not up to a certain level to even have the capacity to perceive, let alone the process. The deeper and further you go with all this, man, the higher you go up the mountain, that summit of the hermit, he truly is at that space between the all and whole quest. But the gate at the summit is that gate that you enter in context to the full. There's no difference between the two. So never forgetting where the fuck we have come from, no matter how far we go in terms of what's been revealed, so that we can always be in that position to address what's necessary in terms of anyone we communicate with. You can convey certain things to a child versus someone that's really advanced, high IQ. You're able to move and flow on all different levels. And I think a lot of people, they reach a certain point where they feel that they can't relate to other people anymore. And that, I think, is where a lot of our actual humanity is being lost. And it's all this jockeying, looking down the nose and not seeing the correlations necessary. What's actually important? And I think it's very important knowledge. But what the fuck is it really that's going to get us to unify with that core intelligence and one another on a level where we can come together and recreate these tables of philosophy and share our ideas and weave this tapestry together like I've been talking about, man?
You ask yourself the question and you start flipping thoughts in your head. Is this world happening to you, or are you happening to this world?
You the cause.
Okay. That's a very simple example. I could also say, is that something happening to you, or are you happening to this crazy chaotic time that we find ourselves in? So one is passive and non-acting, and it's laden with victimhood, right? Yeah. The idea that, oh, this world is happening to me. Who am I? Speck of insignificance. All that means the world and all the circumstances in my life and all these bad people. This is all happening to me. I'm not doing anything to bring it into existence. It's all happening to me. But to be successful at anything and to be successful on this path, I'm happening to this world. This is how every being should operate.
And you're coming from a place of confidence, knowing the fucking
like this. You need some basic confidence
to get through. Fucking happen, right?
Yeah, to get through this time, you have to get your mind into a place of winning and being victorious and being sure of yourself. You don't doubt your step for 1 second. You can make mistakes. It means you get up and you keep going, you keep forging, and you keep winning, never giving up. And seeing the positive side. If you don't have any hope at all, magical faith, the faith in reality, the faith in yourself, the faith in the real spirit, you have to have that in order to win. If you don't have it and you think everything's hopeless and everything is happening to you, you've already lost. That's the mindset of a loser. Yep. And that's something that you make as a choice, every individual. I'm happening to this time. I'm here. That's why it's going to be okay. I'm doing something. I'm not a victim because those people are there or because this tyranny is happening. I'm happening. And that's how everybody needs to start thinking, because it's the mindset of a winner and you need it.
You're not so caught up and focused on what the fuck other people are doing or what's being said on the fucking media. You're on your orlog, you're on your path, you are the cause in terms of being a man. And so many fucking distractions. Take your pick. Anything out there to pull you out of alignment in terms of focus. And this is one of the main things that I teach in terms of the mystery school is focus on the higher force. This is one of the main things that the higher force conveyed to me when I went through my shamanic initiation. And that is the only thing that brought me out of it, because I was in this storm of entities. And you're talking about the paranormal phenomena, all that shit, dude, I fucking experienced it. on the level beyond what I've even been able to convey or really put into words. How are we actually relating to truth when it reveals itself? Because if we are at any fucking point in denial of what's been revealed and embracing that challenge and not being a fucking pussy because something's hard or there's the threat of imminent physical death or whatever, do you not know? Everyone listening out there right now, do you not fucking know that your spirit is eternal? You have always existed. Imagine the state of mind of individuals that would come into a place of being fearless. And to walk this path, you have to be fearless, man. You can't shit in your fucking pants and piss in the fucking corner when the Dracon, Omicron pops the fuck up, whether it's in a variant or for real, phasing in overlays and all this stuff in terms of subtle bodies that can be hooking in on people. And I've experienced this as well. It's shocking. Well, most of humanity right now are at that first veil, but the second veil, dude, let's swing on that for a few minutes, man. What do you say to that?
Well, invasion, that's always been one of their options. Are we going to get to that point? Because their narrative with the whole pandemic is coming apart. You could imagine a world where they would go, well, we need something to distract them. All of this shit's getting exposed. You could say, well, why not just pull the alien card like, Werner von Braun talked about as being one of the options to basically scare the population. They definitely have the technology to do it. It could be that they could even do something where they don't have to actually put holograms up in the sky. If the media had enough credibility, which is why I don't think they're going to be able to do it because the media's credibility is in the tank and it's going nowhere but down. But if they had the media credibility, they could create a scenario just like they created the COVID scenario. They don't even have to show you anything. It's literally all through media. When you understand you're in a psychological warfare, but it's just that ether, you're going to be attacked.
It's the fucking ether.
Yeah, trolled and there's the whole system designed to keep you in a, controlled space of thought. When you know that and you're going on there to share information and help wake people up, definitely takes the edge off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of people are not doing the real work here in terms of actual research and study, spitting whatever the fuck the media is or whoever they're quote unquote fucking following. I do not want followers, motherfuckers. We're here to create leaders for this paradigm. That's all about doing the work. It's not about being a carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy. Who the fuck are you? And what is your alignment? And what are you here to do? I think it's everybody's moral obligation to expose evil. If you're not, then you're part of the goddamn fucking problem.
We hired the best. Believe that. Why not believe that the reason this tyranny and evil got to be so powerful is because this is the ultimate test. Why is that so crazy to believe that in some way we've made a contract? If every way that this whole architect of control system works is to actually get your consent, to manufacture your consent, even though, they're lying to you, they're propagandizing you, they're this and that, there's fine print, they're still getting you to consent. Why wouldn't it be that on the spiritual soul level, that there was an act that took place that said, I know I'm going to this fourth dimension ruled by dark lords and dark priestesses, planet Earth. And I know that's the challenge that I'm in for. And that's what I signed up for. I signed up for a universal experience that's going to actually help me evolve on a spiritual level. The best are in town to show you the worst of humanity so that you could know the best of humanity, to show you the darkness so you could see the light, to show you the evil so you could know the good, to show you ignorance so that you could appreciate knowledge and wisdom. It's a mind shift. It's a perspective shift. And in the end, the lie is doomed to failure. There's your solution. Their own attack is what ended them.
I'm of the notion that there will be a generation that gets it, whether it's in 100 years or 1,000 years. What we do now on this timeline is going to create that trajectory in terms of the ancient future in order to make the corrections of something that's already unfolded. And this time, in terms of the grand cycle and the procession that we chose to fucking incarnate, those of us that have already been here, done this, it's a massive fucking cosmic course correction that's taking place for all beings. And we as humans standing at the spearhead of evolution are up against the most insane, insidious shit, and the gods are looking to us. It's not the other way around, like religion and all these things have conveyed. And this is the number one secret that the dark ones do not want us to know, is who the fuck we truly are, what our true potential is, and what the purpose of actually coming here was. And that was to course correct this timeline trajectory. That's why they're doing what the fuck they're doing, man. To rake out as many people as they can before this potentially takes place going into 2025 and 2028. We're still in a major time of healing. All of this poison and programming and multidimensional time shifts all rising to the surface. And they have their grids laced out within the etheric realm, manifested physically. The term for this is called the spike matrix. But all of the ancient grids buried asunder, my friends, are starting to light the fuck up. And so it's pushing this stuff up and out like gold, the refinements of the gold of consciousness. They don't want us to remember the true essence of what we're actually connected to beyond all this shit. That's the main thing in terms of the birthright, because of ignorance that we are not willing to confront within ourselves. Put that mirror in front of you. And that's the main crux, to running back into all these old patterns and it's just to fucking conform, because they're not willing to fucking face what's necessary, what is required to cross these thresholds.
We are going to continue to see an acceleration of events, and every event that's going to be taking place is going to continuously wake up more people, at least to the beginning stages, because there's levels. But just waking up to the fact that you're being lied to, you're being farmed like cattle. These people hate you.
They're not even fucking human. That's the thing.
And so we have to be more human, because they want to make you what they are, whether they're psychopaths, whether they're physical beings, whether they're interdimensional beings. They want you to not be you, to be more human than what they're trying to do to dehumanize you. It's going to keep tripping on itself until it finally exhausts itself. And it's going to be so obvious when these types of things happen. What would happen if a massive bombshell of irrefutable information went super viral around the world, shining a light on just how evil, twisted, and corrupt politicians, your health advisors? What if the world found out information? Just like the news broke about the pandemic and it went super viral, it hit the world the same way the pandemic did. What would that world look like? Why can't that happen?
The lie, in terms of what they did to flex, they shot themselves in the fucking head, man. It's just
exactly
fucking time before the floodgates break the fuck open in terms of the procession. And things in terms of cult of the medics, some things that I shared with you, the secret covenant. And I want to go over this a little bit with you, because it literally illustrates what you have done to expose these fuckers. And it's going to correspond with the protocols of the elders of Zion, like I've explained, Agenda 21, all this different kind of fucking shit. You have to know and understand and overstand, people, that we're not dealing with something that's inhuman. This is an interdimensional situation in terms of these factions. And they'll ride in on any fucking faction, even the aliens, and you think it's reptilians or draconians. Yes, it is from a certain point of view and context, but it's even fucking worse than that. What is described in the ancient mythos, the Nordic tradition, things in terms of the secret covenant and what it states here, an illusion, it will be so large, so vast that it will escape their perception. Those who see it will be thought of as insane. I know you've gotten that, I've gotten that, all these other fucking people, right? They will create separate fronts to prevent from seeing the connection between them, and they will behave as if they are not connected to keep the illusion alive. Their goal will be accomplished one drop at a time, so as to never bring suspicion upon themselves. This will also prevent from seeing the changes as they occur. They will always stand above the relative field of experience, for they claim to know the secrets of the absolute, but I know for a goddamn fucking fact they don't know the secrets of the absolute, because if they did, they wouldn't do what the fuck they do. They will work together always and will remain bound by secrecy. Death will come to he who speaks. They will keep our lifespan short and minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. Isn't that what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, that's it. Right in a nutshell, right. It should be the slogan of the whole series.
Right. They will use their knowledge of science and technology. They will use soft metals and aging accelerators and sedatives in food and water, also in the air, blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds.
It sounds like the blueprint ritual process to bring this about. This health crisis was what they used. They openly admit that they're using it as an opportunity.
And it states here, right? And it states that we will inject poisons in their blood, into their children, and convince them that it's for their fucking health. They will start early on when their minds are young, and they will target the children with what children love the most, and that's the sweet things. Stating here that when their teeth decay, they will fill them with metals and they will kill their mind and steal their future. And while the children's ability to learn has been affected, they will create medicine that will make them sicker and create other diseases, right? For which they create more quote unquote medicine. They will render these docile and weak before us with power. Cult of the medics. It's all right there. In terms
That's incredible, because I'll tell everybody right now, and I told you this off air, I've never read the codex. I just found this through independent research, putting dots together. Whoever wrote this has the recipe book, how it works. I'm seeing all the signatures of what you're reading right there.
This is what they are.
They said it exactly.
Yeah. And it's interesting how this is unfolded, because the old world order up until this point, it's all been designed to not only be exposed under the true intention of what they're working to fucking implement, and people don't know the difference, co-sign the New Dawn agenda. This is what I got into with Jordan Maxwell and the New Dawn agenda, and what the real New World Order agenda is. And it's not what the fuck people think it is, because they don't give a fuck if you know what has already led up to a certain point. They don't want you to know what the fuck is really going on. Loki and Gulveg tricking people into co-signing. The way that they're able to plague the psyche is so fucking
it's almost too smart.
Advanced.
I felt that a long time when I look at this.
You can't see it, and how everyone fucking switched to the game that's being run on their psyche, and how deep it actually goes, man. It's so intricate. But when you course correct the timeline, ruling class and the fucking governments and all this different kind of shit, that is all designed to fall apart on purpose in terms of what's being exposed. And you don't see the fucking shit that's being slipped under the table of what the fuck is coming. It's not going to be anything that's not a similar model, but something that's more advanced, where people think that they're overturning tyranny when they're really co-signing something that's far fucking worse, man.
It makes sense. I mean, I see the thing differently. Everybody has their angle, and there are people that make things into things that they're not. I think there's a bigger game happening where we have to be careful not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because this awakening time that we're in, the age of revealing, is striking the core of every living thing. It's a timing thing. It's a photonic thing. So we're going to see good and evil everywhere. There's good people working behind the scenes to expose shit. I mean, even think of some of the whistleblowers we've had through history. They used to walk the ivory halls. They used to walk.
It's a paradox,
in
man.
league.
Right.
It's a paradox. So people have to figure out the way of seeing things, and that's the path. The whole point is freedom. You have to know that there's what you can change, and so start with what you can do now. So my recommendation for people is learn the skills that you need to learn so that you can become more self-sufficient. Even if things get turned around and we start having a clearer path, and this kind of evil gets overturned, it's still incumbent upon all of us to learn this lesson of history. Even though there are good things that are happening at even the highest levels, the ultimate point of faith you should have is within yourself about what you're capable of doing. So that way, that trust isn't just given blindly outwards. And then from there, you can decide who and what you trust. That's why it's a personal journey. All of this. What did Bruce Lee say? All knowledge is ultimately self-knowledge.
Right.
All the knowledge that we're learning right now about all these questions and these subjects and what's going on in the world and what's going on in our inner world and what's going on in the underworld, which I'll talk about in a sec. That's all part of your self-knowledge, the self-knowledge of every living being. And this is ultimately part of a bigger picture that, as you said, we can't even imagine if we tried. It's so big. And that's awesome. That means there's so much more mystery in this world.
There is so much more. Life. What I was getting into with you as far as the secret covenant, it just keeps getting worse and worse and fucking more fucked up and insane in context to the reading. It goes on to say, if they ever find out about us that they can vanquish us, they will take action. They must never, ever find out what we have done, for if they do, we shall have no place to run. For it will be easy to see who we are once the veil has fallen. This is why it's all out in the open, because the veil has fallen in context. Our actions shall have revealed who we are, and they will hunt us down, and no one will give us shelter. Now, think about what the fuck we're actually dealing with. The idea of not giving the parasitic consciousness shelter within your own mind, within your own fucking beingness. The minute that happens on the face of the earth, they have nothing to fucking hook in on. But that's the gig. That's the covenant. That's their secret covenant by which they shall live the rest of their present existence, future lives. For this reality shall transcend many generations and lifespans. This covenant is sealed by blood, their blood, the ones from whom heaven to earth came. Goes towards these things are interdimensional. This was not written by anything that was human. This is something else. And the concealing of the actual dark Luciferian covenant, stating that it must never be known to exist, must never be written about or spoken about. But if it is, the consciousness that it will spawn, the apophatic process that we are experiencing, will release the fury of the prime creator upon us, and we shall be cast into the depths from whence we came and remain there until the end of infinity itself. This is their words. This force that we are up against, I mean, what's been convoluted in terms of religion, it's fucking worse, man. And the consequence of not adhering truth and alignment otherwise. Of course, everyone's going to make their decision, but I don't think ultimately that these gates in terms of the procession are always going to be made available in terms of this specific timeline that's going to fucking unfold. So people are going to have to make a choice of what they're going to be in alignment with or not. With that said, man, anything else you want to go into in terms of cultic genetics like we were talking about?
I'm working hard on this new chapter. It's called Underworld, and it's going to be looking at the many different underworlds, starting with your own internal underworld cycle, the underworld hero's journey, the actual physical underworld, just sort of a sketch of it, very quickly introducing it because I have a different series planned in the future to specifically get into that. And then the criminal underworld and how it interfaces with what I'm calling the criminal overworld. So you have your overworld and your underworld. You have the white market and the black market. You have the exoteric, the esoteric, the surface and the subterranean. And this is happening across the board. It brings everything together from the previous chapters. It's going to be heavy. There's a lot of information in this one. It's the hardest project I've ever done, this chapter. It's going to take some more time because it has to be done right. Such a hard Rubik's Cube of information to put together properly. So I'm taking my time to make sure it's done right. But when it comes out, I'm really hoping that it helps people, even people that may have heard many of the themes that I'm going to bring up in this. You've never heard it this way. I'm also looking to this research community to look at the information and then add to it and research further, because I'm on the trail of something really huge. And this was something, there was a lot of intuitive elements of it that kicked it off. It also was because of all the research and the people I surrounded myself with that I've learned from, that's allowed it to come to what it is. I'm really excited about it. Everybody can go now and catch up. I put it out for free. I have a little donation bin there, but the best way to help support this is to share it, download it, edit it, and make little clips. I want to put tools and weapons of psychological war out there for the positive side that will help people showcase this information in a way they've never seen before. These types of documentary series can be very effective. Going for 12 chapters. I'm excited as to where it's come and where it's going to go from here.
Excellent. David, I want to thank you for coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
Good getting into this and diving deep and do it again in the future. Definitely look forward to coming back on the Unslaved podcast with Michael and driving what we need to in terms of those doing the real work and men that are not going to fucking relent. So much more is going to be revealed. Yeah, we'll take it from there next time.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Everybody go into the description and check out the links as to David's platform, Truth Warrior, at dwtruthwarrior.com. Also be sure to check out Cult of the Medics at cultofthemedics.com so as to plug things in terms of the mystery school. If anybody out there is interested, send me a direct email at blackearthproductions with an S at hotmail.com. Check out the website at blackearthproductions.com and we'll get things lined out accordingly. And if you haven't yet, now is the time in terms of the procession. This is a major part of what is going to be manifesting in the earth in terms of recreating these schools of proper knowledge and wisdom that are unlike anything that's been in the earth since what happened did. And whether or not you catch the vision for yourself is key. All of us are here, and all of us are also being held accountable to the trajectory. This is Seth Esposa, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science. I look forward to following up with those that have already come on board and also speaking with many more individuals soon. Be empowered, be encouraged.